So, hi, this is Kim Grennan from Mommycosm.com. I am here with author Shirin Yim Bridges, who wrote The Thinking Girl's Treasury of Real Princesses. Well, hello and welcome, Shirin. How are you?
Thank you for having me on your show. I'm fine, thank you.
So, my daughter is 9 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and she has stolen these books from me and will not give them back. She absolutely loves them.
Oh, great.
I
That's
was
great to hear.
talking to her last night about them and wanted to know what age group this is specifically targeted towards. I wanted to get that on record here.
They're targeted towards 9 to 13-year-olds, and they've been leveled for literacy at grade 5. And in terms of social studies curricula, they meet curricula in grades 5, 6, and 7.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about how these came to be.
Well, it's actually a very personal story because I'm a children's author. I published a book called Ruby's Wish. That was my first book in 2002, and then I followed that up with another picture book called The Umbrella Queen. And then I noticed that my niece, who was about 9 years old at the time, about 8 or 9 years old, was coming out of her fascination with the Disney princesses. And I kind of jumped onto this because I've never really been 100% happy with the message that those fairy tales tell our children. So I said to Tegan, did you know that in real life, there have been real princesses who didn't sit around waiting for a prince, but who actually went out and changed their lives, and in doing that, changed history. And she didn't know, but she was interested. So I went. I've been a history buff all my life. So I went and tried to find these stories for her, these stories that I knew. And I was really surprised to find that they're almost impossible to find as for children of this age group. So I decided that as I was a children's author, I should write them myself. And that's how this series came about. And then I decided that I should publish them myself. And so that's how Goose Bottom Books came about. The series was The Thinking Girl's Treasury of Real Princesses, and we've just launched a second series that's actually written by 6 different authors. I'm one of them, but there are 5 other authors writing with me. And that's The Thinking Girl's Treasury of Dastardly Dames.
That looks like an amazing series. I was looking at some of the lists of the dastardly dames that are on there, and I noticed Mary, the Tudor.
Yes, Bloody Mary. Mm-hmm.
Bloody Mary, thank you. Rumor has it in my family, if you trace our lineage back, that somehow we're related to her. So
oh, wow.
I don't always announce that. But don't like to admit that, but it'll be interesting for my daughter to read that one in particular.
Yes, and if that's true, then you're also related to Isabella of Castile, one of the princesses.
Oh, awesome.
Because Isabella of Castile was actually the grandmother of Mary Tudor. So
I did not realize that.
And that you're related to 2 books and 2 series of Goose Bottom Books.
My daughter, that Isabel is actually Isabella, right?
Mm-hmm.
She actually is my daughter's favorite out of the princesses when I asked her which one was her favorite. She liked her. And I think it's because at 9, she's very fashion conscious, and she loves the dress that was illustrated. She's simple that way. So it's all about the dress, not necessarily the story for some reason.
Well, all the books actually have, for that reason, a what she wore section, so that for every single princess and every single dame, we show you exactly what she would have been wearing at that time, and we also provide some kind of really nice little factoids, little information bits. Like, for example, Mary Tudor was given a drop pearl that she wore, and that pearl passed on and was worn by different royalty through the centuries until the 1960s, when it was actually purchased by Elizabeth Taylor. And Liz Taylor was the last person that we know who had that pearl. It's called the Peregrina. So you get tiny little
I did not know that. That's very cool.
Little interesting, cool facts that are interspersed through these books.
And you said that there are 6 different authors for the other series, The Dastardly Dames.
For the Dames, correct.
Yes. Is it the same illustrator?
It is a different illustrator. What we're trying to do is that with every series, we actually have an illustrator who illustrates all the series so that the illustration style kind of ties that series back together. So the princesses had their own illustrator, Albert Nguyen, and the Dames is illustrated by Peter Malone. He's a fabulous illustrator. He lives in Bath in England, and he's been the illustrator of over 20 books. So we're very, very fortunate to have been given the opportunity to work with them, seeing as we're such a small press. But
very cool. I can say that my daughter graduated from the whole Disney princesses thing too, which was nauseating for me back in the day. So I really welcomed this series, and the illustrations are fabulous. They're more mature than a typical storybook illustration, and she really enjoyed all the factoids, and she especially liked the glossary in the beginning because some of the names are difficult to pronounce.
Yes.
And that she was, spouting out the names last night. I'm like, whoa, what? Which one? Like, how do you know how to say that? And it was really neat that she's learned a lot about this. She's in 4th grade now, so when 5th and 6th grades roll around, she might know a little bit more than some of the others. So.
Yeah, well, I've heard that they're really good kind of background to what the kids actually have to learn in the curriculum during those periods. Like, the ancient civilizations is part of grade 5 or grade 6, but depending on whether you're in the public school system in California or in the Waldorf system. But we have, ancient Greece is covered with Artemisia of Caria. Ancient Egypt is covered with both Hatshepsut, the first female pharaoh, who's a princess, and also Cleopatra, who's one of our dastardly dames. And then ancient Rome with Agrippina, who's one of the Roman empresses, who's a dastardly dame. And we also cover Persia, which comes up in the curriculum, China and Mongolia. So I think that it kind of, for me, it was really neat to try and introduce kids not just to history, but also history all around the world. And I'm hoping that the message is going to be that these girls have, they grew up to be women, but they all started as girls. These girls managed to change their lives and to change history, and in cultures where it was very, very difficult to do that. So all across the globe and all through time, girls have found a way to do it. And I think that's the most important message that we can get through right now.
Absolutely. I love that message. Just empowering young girls in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say my daughter definitely is inspired by those. She definitely enjoyed the books.
Oh, great.
I had to fight with her just to get them from her so that I could have them with me today. So she's like, I do get those back, right?
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yes, you do. She actually has a small bookshelf that's by her bed. They have a larger one that she and my son share. They're very big into reading. But she gets to keep a small one right by her bed, and those are stored there.
Oh, that's lovely. That's nice to hear.
Yes, she definitely loves the books a lot. The books are very well written, and the stories are compelling and definitely worthy of the attention of anyone from 9 to 13, or even their parents could learn a little bit, as I did, from them. So
I hear that often. I have a lot of adults who say, oh, we read this and it was amazing that we didn't know all this. And I've also had a couple of people come by and tell me that they actually bought the books for their coffee table, that they didn't have any children, but they just thought the books were so lovely and interesting that they just bought them for their coffee table, which is also really nice to hear. And then I have a friend who told me that he's got a really young child, but she just loves the pictures. Like all the historical background might be a little bit too much for her, but she just likes the fact that on every page there's like all this stuff to look at and to point at and to ask her dad what's that and what's that. So I think a lot of people are relating to these books in very different ways, and I feel really rewarded by that, of course.
I love that my daughter can read these in one sitting. She's very into chapter books these days. That's what they push in school these days, are the chapter books. But she can sit and read this with her little brother, who's 6. She can read to him, and he can look at the pictures, and they can enjoy them together. So I think they're fabulous, and I wish you all success in
Thank you
your
very
future
much.
endeavors. And she actually has requested for Christmas that I buy her the Dastardly Dames series. So
Oh, well, that's lovely.
We'll get on that.
Great.
So thank you very much for taking the time to let me interview you.
Thank you. Thanks very much for your interest and your support and enthusiasm. I really appreciate it.